Hello everyone, welcome back to the Captain Logan Show. 'Tis me, Captain Logan, and whipping away over there is my wonderful chat moderator and producer, DJ Martinez. Welcome everybody. Thanks a bunch for being here. DJ, it's good to see you, man.
It's good to see you, Mr. Parker.
Yeah. I'm one of those weird, like, Spider-Verse variants that is some other guy for some reason. I'm the Captain Logan version of Spider-Man. I'm like, if Captain Logan got bit by a spider, he wouldn't actually go out and fight crime. His responsibility is to the viewers.
Yeah, he'd just still sit in front of the screen, but he'd be wearing a Spider-Man costume.
Yeah, exactly. And when I got bit by the spider, it just gave me the ability to review movies.
Oh, yeah. That's an interesting spider bite.
Yeah, to the proportionate strength of a spider's review.
Well, I mean, Miles got electricity powers and chameleon powers.
Yeah,
so.
what is that about? What spider does that? Or at least what spider has the electricity powers? And they just put the word venom with it, like that explains it.
Yeah.
And then it's also weird to have the word venom associated in a Spider-Man thing with not venom, with not symbiotes or anything.
Yeah, did Miles ever get his own symbiote? Like his own venom?
Maybe that's happened in recent years when we completely ran out of ideas with the character. I don't know, because I haven't read anything with Miles in 5 or 6 years, but new stuff.
You mean Spin?
Yeah, no, I do not mean Spin. Spin's another variant from some other universe. Anyway, welcome everybody. We're going to have kind of a Spider-Man themed show tonight, although feel free to ask questions about anything else under the sun. It doesn't have to be just Spider-Man related tonight, but tonight's lead-in topic is indeed Spider-Man related, and we kind of dressed up for the occasion because I got to do something really cool last weekend, and I don't know how long the lead-in topic is going to take, DJ. I'm going to stop saying I'm going to make this as fast as I can and say I don't know how long it will take. I'm going to take you guys through a slideshow at the risk of being like, here's Grandpa's home movies. I'm going to show you guys.
I went on a trip, guys. Let me show you my latest JPEGs.
And this is us stopping at the Quick Trip. And this is us going to a yard sale.
Wow, we got a nice little rendition of your original accent.
I was going to say, you don't want to get me into a southern accent because after a while it'll just be authentic. Right now I'm making fun of where I'm from, but it'll just turn into that. But anyway, I took several pictures while I was at the Spider-Man exhibition over the weekend here in Kansas City. It's in its last week, and in fact, I think it's only, not that most of our viewers are from around here or passing through in the next couple of days, but I think it just goes through this weekend, and it's been there all year, or a lot of the year. A few people I know have gone or have seen things about it and are like, hey, Cap, you really need to go to that Spider-Man thing at Union Station. It looks really cool. That's downtown Kansas City, Missouri, about 15 minutes from me, and I don't go down there for a lot of things except for the occasional convention because it's not the easiest area to drive in or park at, but occasionally I go down there for functions. There's a couple of really good barcades that I like to go down there with. Seems like whenever I'm with Vince, we wind up in that area. There's a lot of like bars and things that he likes to frequent down there. But anyway, so I took Jason and Freddie, and we saw a lot of cool Spider-Man paraphernalia and artifacts, historical artifacts. I was a little bit concerned from just the few pictures that I'd seen before I went, DJ, that it was going to be like all prefab stuff. Just for this show, that it was like it's museum-y, right? It's in a science center, but a lot of these things tend to be real interactive for kids, so it won't be so much about showing you any cool historical things as it is just teaching you about something, which is, I guess, cool enough for the kids. Like the Legoland here is kind of like that, and I wasn't sure if we'd see anything original, but in fact we did. There was a lot of prefab stuff. There were, kind of some statues that they made just for this, and there's a lot of screens everywhere with just comic covers and interiors and things, and it's very surreal to walk into a place and go, and I have that, and I have that, and that is also in my collection. Jason Freddy just kept going, oh, hey, Dad, do you have this? And like most of the people there were people that weren't into comics and were younger and whose kids probably don't even realize Spider-Man is based on a comic book.
Yeah, what are these stacks of images on top of each other in a rectangle? I don't know why this is weird.
Yeah, exactly. So like I have that whenever I go to Metropolis, Illinois with some of the Superman stuff, and I especially have that when we go to the video game museum in Texas, where I'm like, this is really surreal. Like now this is history. It was just my childhood, and some of this is in my house. So I had the same thing with this, but I did get to see some original Ditko artwork and who else? Romita. And some major stuff like that, which was great. And I'll show you guys some pictures of some of that. Daniverse is putting in a bunch of Z's, so I don't know if he's
We put him to sleep already.
Yeah. Is he falling asleep? Like, Daniverse, so, why is there text? I don't know what that means. Why is there text where?
I've always said we should move away from text and just be a completely verbal society.
Oh, okay. So you're all for the emoticons and nothing else then. You want to just communicate in smiley faces and... Yeah, he's making me all self-conscious. I'm like, oh God, we better hurry up and rush on. I just wanted to get all of that out of the way before I started showing you guys the slides, and just give you a sense of what it was that we saw, and then I'll just show you individual specific things. But sorry, DJ, what were you saying?
No, we can go ahead and get into it. I was just going to ask...
Oh, Daniverse was joking about the kids. He's like, why is there text in the panels?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
The children are so bored. They're like, wait, I thought we were going to go see a movie. Isn't that what Spider-Man is? Is it just movies?
Oh, that's so sad.
The thing I most appreciated about the exhibition is that it had tons of reverence for comic books in the history of Spider-Man, starting in a graphic and literary medium. So as you walk through, and I'll show you this in a second, but I'm not totally in order, which is why I also wanted to get this out of the way. But you're kind of walking through the history of the character in publication and then into extra media. So it's starting with the early Lee and Ditko days, and then it's a very exhaustive timeline of like, here's who was writing and drawing first, and then here's the next major team, and then here's it's a lot of how I would have put it together. It's really cool. And then of course plenty of extra media, and in some ways it gets more depressing as it goes along, because you get toward the end, you get to the last 20 years, and you're like, and then we get to the place where Spider-Man's not always Spider-Man anymore. You know what I mean? Like, once you get to the Spider-Verse area, DJ would have been like, okay, can we just, like, walk back to where we were? Like,
there needs to be a shortcut that people can take through the exhibit for fans who don't care about the last decade.
Yeah, or who are kind of saddened by how much we've gotten away from Peter Parker and how much Peter Parker was not himself through the slot run especially, and even some of the stuff that we did before that. There is this... So... throughout the exhibit, there are 3 or 4 kind of stations, DJ, with a big like iPad or a big like interactive screen where you can basically look at sort of Wikipedia entries about various eras of Spider-Man, and they've got one for each of the big sections. And when you get to the last section with it, and you look at, it's 5 major story arcs all together, and 4 of the 5 are the worst things that ever happened to Spider-Man. just all in one, and it's hilarious. So it's like, here's one more day, and then here's brand new day, and then here's like, what is it, Spider Island or Spider-Verse, I forget. And it's just like, it's all like not good, but very major popular Spider-Man things. It's hilarious.
Oh man. So was this is this like a traveling exhibit that goes all across the country? Okay, so it's like one of those.
Yeah, which is why it
sets up.
Yeah, which is why it's shutting down this weekend, because they've got to go to some other town. I said most of the year. I keep thinking that it's been here for several months, and I needed to go. I don't know how long it was at Union Station, but long enough that they had decoration for it like blocks away. Like, all the light posts had a big Spider-Man thing on them, trying to get people to go. It was really cool.
Yeah, they have those that come through here. We get a lot of those, downtown in Atlanta.
Of course.
I don't know if we got this one. We probably did. I'm assuming we did at some point, either before or in the future. Have to look
if it shows up, you definitely ought to go, even though I'm going to show you a lot of the cool stuff in it.
Spoilers ahead.
But it's definitely worth it. Not horribly expensive. Adult tickets were 22, and
Oh wow, not bad at all.
and kids were like 15, and I think even less under a certain age.
Cool.
So anyway, thanks a lot for joining us as always. As we always do, I will take questions throughout the show, and once we get past the exhibit stuff, you guys can ask us about again anything under the sun, geeky or otherwise. But we prefer the geeky stuff, but we'll answer anything within reason. You can leave a super chat in any dollar amount, which guarantees that we'll talk about whatever you want to. But if you don't want to do that, can't do that, you can leave a regular comment with a question as well, and away we go. So here is the exhibit stuff. So this is the building. This is Union Station, which is real close to Crown Center, which is a cool mall, and that's where I proposed to my wife. Interesting little tidbit about me. So we were like 3 blocks away from the ice skating rink where I proposed to Sarah, and I took the kids over there, and we walked that mall. As you walk,
Those were just 2 wild children that happened to be roaming by as I was trying to take the picture.
Yeah, exactly. And then somebody got mad at me for taking pictures of their kids, and then I was like, no, those are my anyway. So I'm not gonna have a lot of comments about some of the things I'm showing you. I'll just kind of run through this and show you the slides, but just a lot of big pieces of artwork and stuff. Before you even get in and show your ticket, they have some cool things. I don't know why exhibits like this always do this, where like you feel like you're already in it, and then you have to remind yourself, oh yeah, I still have to like hand my ticket over, but. You have what's supposed to be kind of a recreation of the Marvel office where Lee and Ditko and those guys would have worked, which was a neat thing that they thought really to cool. Put together. And you can't actually walk in there and look at it. So I shot that from, behind the line. But that's neat. And then this just gives you kind of the vibe of the thing. A lot of the images on these screens you'll see were moving. We're either moving or we're transitioning to some other image. So if I took a picture of this a couple minutes later, it would have looked totally different. So that continues through here. Big open spaces, and I'll criticize this just a little bit. Like, they didn't quite have enough to show. Like I said, so much of it was either prefab or images on walls, and that's probably a lot neater if you're not as familiar with these characters and some of the artwork and stuff as I am. But then some of the pre-made stuff was really neat, and reminded me of some of the stuff that's at Universal with the Spider-Man ride and with all the Marvel stuff that they have there, especially when you get to like the big printed images of villains and stuff, and they used a lot of classic designs for those, and I took pictures of quite a few of those. But I guess it also makes sense that there's a lot of space just because there was a big crowd. There were a lot of people there, and probably partly because it was the last day. We got there before there were too many people, and then it got really thick as we were leaving. So I'm glad I got some of these pictures taken early on. But and DJ, if you see any worthwhile comments or questions that you want to throw out while I'm talking, feel free, because I'm not looking at the chat right now.
Yeah, sure.
But anyway, so you keep going, and I'll just point out a few original pieces of art here and there and show you the actual artifacts. There's the chameleon on a wall there. Like I said, there's a bunch of these where you'll just have a real big image of a villain. This is one of the earlier pieces of art that they had, and I'm not going to show you everything I found, but this was Strange Tales number 97, which is a Ditko piece, and I didn't take these real super close up, so I don't know how easy they're going to be to see. But there's a lot of things to read throughout the exhibit, of course. So you've got a real brief history of the very, very early days, pre-Marvel, during Timely and stuff. I don't want to toot my own horn and talk like I know everything, but like I didn't read as much with this as I might have some other things, just because a lot of things I knew, but I'm sure, and I took pictures of a lot of stuff that I didn't have time to read right then, so I'm sure there's some things in here that I wouldn't have been familiar with. Folks are probably going to expect that there was a copy of Amazing Fantasy 15 there. There in fact was not. Here's a big image of it on a wall that my kids stood next to, but Jason's in there too, but you can't see him in this image. There he is. But they did have one of the few actual comics they had, and that's one of the criticisms I had, is where are all the comics? It would have been cool to see more early issues and, the CG seed and in the nicest condition that they could have found. I would have liked to have seen more of that. There were only 2 in the whole building that I saw. One was an Amazing Fantasy, but I don't know if I have a picture of it in here. I think it was like 4 or 6 or something. I think maybe just to showcase that was a book before 15, and that Lee or Ditko or both had worked on it. I'm not sure, but anyway, we do have a copy of Amazing #1 though, and DJ, I don't know what it books for these days. Do you know what the last sale price was for an Amazing #1?
I have no idea.
I should look that up, because I know Amazing 15 or Amazing Fantasy 15 is one of those books that sold for like a million or close to $1 million, I believe. Yeah. But I don't know if that one has sold that high. You notice that is a 1.5. I don't think you're ever gonna find a condition any better than that.
That's so sad. That's low, man. That's a really low rating. It doesn't look that horrible.
No, it really doesn't. Not that I was able to pick it up and look at it or anything. That's behind glass, of course. But and even then, being CGC'd, you'd have no idea what the interior pages look like. That's one of the things I don't love about CGC is, like, I get why we do that to preserve these things, but when I have really nice copies of books, I like to be able to, very carefully and not very often, especially if it's a major key issue or something really rare, but I like to be able to crack it open one time for someone and be like, look how pretty the interior pages are, like if the colors and inks hold up to looking real close to what they looked like at the day, I want to be able to show that off.
There's a graded 7.5 of that issue.
Wow.
For $150,000 on eBay.
Okay.
And it also says signed by Stan Lee, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, maybe I'm wrong then. Maybe that's never gotten anywhere close to the heights of Amazing 15 or
Yeah, it looks good though.
Or Detective or or any of that stuff.
Well, yeah, so it's just a measly 150,000, guys. So go ahead and grab it.
Yeah, I'll save up for the next 45 years, and then we've got a lot of Ditko. In fact, it seemed like they had more original Ditko art than anything, and that kind of surprised me, given that I would think some more recent guys would be easier to get your hands on. But there wasn't very much in the way of McFarlane, which kind of surprised me. Like, there's an area for modern late 80s, early 90s where he's talked about and has his own entry, and I'll show you this later, but they do have the original pencils for the cover of Amazing 300, so that was really cool. But I think that was the only McFarlane art I saw in the whole building. And it might be that he holds his stuff too close to the chest, because I know he keeps a lot of his original artwork, but there wasn't much Bagley either, and he probably doesn't. So
interesting.
So anyway, but there's a nice write-up on Romita, and all just really pretty and professionally done. On the left there, Vulture's Prey, that is a Romita drawing. And on the right, that is another Romita drawing. There actually was also quite a bit of Romita, now that I'm thinking about it. And there's Mysterio. There was some neat kind of, again, just multimedia pieces like this where that's like swirling around and the pictures are moving and stuff. I didn't take any video while I was there. Maybe I should have. Gil Kane for Amazing 89 on the left there, and on the right, that's also another Gil Kane drawing. Gil Kane's one of those guys that I never think I'm a big fan of until I go back and look at his drawing again, and I'm like, oh, that's right. He was like aping Romita to some degree, and then I think kind of got his own style a little bit, but his stuff is always really dynamic, and I like the eyes and stuff. We did see some movie props, not as much as I expected, but there's the end of one of the octopus tentacles and his like goggle things from Spider-Man 2.
Palm of my hand.
And I would venture to guess, I didn't have this thought until just now, I would venture to guess that the reason you see some of the Raimi props, this might not be true, but is probably because of No Way Home. And the reason I'm saying that is because the No Way Home suit is here. I'll show you that in a little bit later. So when you're seeing props from those movies, it might be because they also used them on that set, and they had like a package where they were able to get their hands on stuff that was used in No Way Home. I don't know how true that is, though, because there's also, and I don't know if I have a picture of this, but they also had some stuff from Spider-Man 3. Nothing major, but they had a couple of the newspaper covers. And stuff from that movie. There's my kids fighting Doc Ock. Here is another Romita drawing. They had I don't know if we looked at it already, but they had an image, original pencils, I should say, from one of the early pages in Spider-Man No More. So they don't have that cover or the or this major interior, but they did have the like opening splash page, I think. And there's the Goblin Mask and the Pumpkin Bomb. For some reason, the coolest prop to me to get to see in person was the Pumpkin Bomb.
That looks oranger than I remember.
I know. Yeah, I was really excited about that. Do you have any guess as to what you're looking at behind the Pumpkin Bomb? What that is the base of?
Is it a Sandman thing?
So that's a really good guess, but no, that is a bust that I guess they probably worked off of for CG and stuff for the Lizard for Amazing Spider-Man.
Oh yeah. Look at that guy.
Here are a couple of pieces that were signed by Romita again, I think. And it's really funny that one of them is the float for the Macy's Day Parade.
Such an iconic float. So cool.
A lot less memorabilia than I would have expected behind glass. Some of the stuff we got to see here was neat. A couple things that I do have. This is another thing where my kids were like, okay, how much of what's behind here do you have, Dad? And I was like, actually not a ton, because of how far back a lot of this goes, because I don't start collecting Spider-Man at all until the 90s. So I have a few, besides comics, things from the 70s and 80s, like there's some like storybook record sets and things. Here, I do have a couple of those. DJ, do you see this giant Spectacular Spider-Man Marvel Treasury edition?
Yeah, down there,
the bottom. I have that.
Oh, awesome. I used to love those. I had a couple of those from my dad when I was a kid. I had an Avengers one that was really big and awesome.
But, like, this TV chair, this blow-up TV chair, I'd never seen that.
That's pretty great.
So there's some neat things like that. And then this was kind of curious, and this is, I think, probably like a blown up recreation of just a piece of paper that they were using for the PS4 game, but that's a bunch of logos that they were kicking around, that they were just kind of drawing out and kicking around for the logo for that game.
Oh, wow.
And there is a whole section dedicated to video games, which I'll get to here in a little bit. This was an area, because they always make these things interactive, like I said. This was an area where kids could come in and color and draw Spider-Man, and so Freddy's working on that. I like the kind of double doors here through Spider-Man's head. And then they had videos playing to teach you how to draw Spider-Man from more recent Spider-Man artists on books that I've never read. So I stood here and watched this video for 5 minutes, excited to find out who this guy was drawing Miles Morales' head. And by the way, he doesn't draw full body. He spends forever explaining how to draw Miles Morales' head. And then he finishes it, and he's some guy that I've never heard of that I worked on recent books. I don't know who that is. I still don't know who that is.
Interesting. I feel like the head is the easiest part of Spider-Man to draw.
This puzzle was really cool. So on one side, it's this big wood puzzle, and on one side it's Spider-Man, on the other side it's the black costume.
Oh, that's cool.
And the kids were doing that. And I actually took this as 2 different times while we were there, because we passed by it again, and somebody had flipped some of the pieces over, and Freddy was like, oh man, it's the black costume. He had to do it again. Here's a Venom bust that was used for reference in Let There Be Carnage.
That gem.
So yeah, surprisingly some recent stuff like that. And then here is some interiors from Amazing 253 during the Black Costume Saga, and that is Rick Leonardi. And then here's the section devoted to Venom and Carnage.
Oh, hey, your boy.
And they're dealing with the Clone Saga and stuff. That is, like I said, the only McFarlane piece I saw in the building.
Wow.
The pencils for Spider-Man for Amazing 300.
You were looking for a manager. Who do I talk to?
Yeah, I really was.
In this place.
I'll say I was more impressed with the early day stuff than I was with anything else in the place, and there were some big surprises, and I'll get to one here in a minute, or at least for me, that I was excited about. I don't know if anybody else here will be, but and just excited that somebody thought to put it in. But the more nostalgic period for me was left a little bit to be desired, I thought. But I will say some of the stuff that I got to see, and just the way this was put together and how classy it is, being there for the first 10 or 15 minutes, it took a while to adjust. Like, I did tear up a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. Like, some of it was kind of a big deal, and I have a tendency to do that sometimes with like a nostalgia wave with something really really classy and well put together and professional, devoted to what feels like my own childhood, where it's like it's just surreal. It's like you didn't think that, that there's 100,000 other people that care about this stuff, but while you're there, it kind of feels like they did it just for you. Especially when you have like a wall devoted to 2099, and you're like, there was a time where I felt like I was the only person that cared about that, and stuff like that. This was a big deal to me, just that they even put it in, and like it's a
Oh, is that Maximum Carnage?
Yeah, it's a thing I could put together right now, but it was just really neat that they thought to do it. So that is the red Maximum cartridge.
Maximum cartridge. Yeah,
the red Maximum Carnage cartridge for Genesis, with a Model 2 Genesis, and
that should be the documentary that should be the title of the documentary you make about that.
Oh, what a good idea. Maximum Cartridge? Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
About all Spider-Man games.
Yeah, I should. But like I said, this is a display that I could put together, but I just thought it was so cool that they did it. And on the wall, I didn't put a picture of this in there or take any photography, but they have a projector that's projecting pixel art onto the wall, where the sprite of Spider-Man from that game is like crawling up the wall. It's really cool. It's like
nice.
Somebody really likes that game and gave it its due. It was neat. Here is the Spider-Man noir suit, or sort of the noir suit. That's the like
Far From Home.
The whatever monkey thing that they called it in that.
Yeah, it's like the stealth suit from S.H.I.E.L.D., but yeah, they call it Dark Monkey or something.
That's what it was. Yeah, I forget. But yeah, it looks like noir, but it isn't noir.
Yeah.
But yeah, they have that. And then, like I said, there's their kind of dedication to Spider-Man 2099, though they don't have any interiors from it or anything. They're just like, look, covers. And I'm like, yep, that's what those look like. But it's neat that you guys put it there just so that people can learn about the history of this stuff. This is my favorite thing. So here's a Miles Morales statue that they made for this. And there's my son Freddy doing his best to do that pose. And I thought that was a really cool shot, so I took it. But I want this sign out of context. This is the funniest thing I've seen in a long time. Please do not climb or sit on Miles Morales. Not on the statue, not on the Miles Morales statue, just on Miles Morales. Like, I like that sign almost more than the statue. I wanted to steal it. It's amazing.
So cool that they went the extra mile and made a custom sign for that specific purpose. So weird.
I should have made this the thumbnail.
That would have been a great thumbnail.
I really should have. Don't climb or sit.
Also, how old is this Miles Morales? He looks like he has the body of like a 30-year-old man. Like he's
a comic book character.
Muscular, like the old.
The spider bite did it to him.
Like that is not a 15-year-old body. Like the obliques and stuff is very strange.
Well, to be fair, he's been around long enough now that in the comics, I'd be surprised if he wasn't like 18 or 19 already.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know what it's based on. If it's
we age characters up so hard these days. But no, you're right. I'm sure that's supposed to be 15-year-old Miles Morales, and it doesn't look at all like him. But, or at least, I mean, it looks like him. But you're right. He's too muscular. So I was really surprised to find this out, DJ. This is a real physical artifact. This is that like multimedia thing from Far From Home with all the like newspaper cutouts and stuff. I was really surprised that they made a physical one. That I guess they based all the CG and the digital stuff on, or they actually took real photography and then put it into a computer.
Yeah, I wonder how much stop motion was involved in making that thing.
I would have thought none of that would be physical.
I'd have to look into the house that did those, because I think they did them for the first two.
Okay.
I don't know if they did it for the third one. I've only seen that one once, but I remember there was like some design house that did that. So maybe it is practical. See, they got this beautiful like title scene, and then you go to whatever that secret show is, Secret Invasion, where they do like literally an AI art.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say, is so much of this stuff is being done, you know, just by a computer, and sometimes not even by human beings these days, or we're worried that it's going more that way, that it's kind of shocking when you see, graphics, like not just props, but actual graphics from a movie that are physical and exist. So yeah, I was really surprised to see that. This was the Spider-Verse room, and all of this stuff on the wall is moving and changing, and was kind of a neat setup. This is Mark Bagley on the left. So again, interesting that both McFarlane and Bagley, the only art that I found for either of them were covers and not interiors. But that is Amazing 361 with Carnage, which is of course another book that I've got. And on the right there is John Romita Jr., and there was actually quite a bit of Romita Jr. art also. And so along with his father, but more senior than junior, which I certainly applaud. And I forget what issue this is from. I've got it here, but it's kind of blurry. I'm having a hard time reading it. Is it 300? Is it? I can't tell. But anyway, I always thought that was maybe an homage to the classic Romita interiors with Spider-Man trying to hold up the big thing on the roof. I forget where he is in that. And then, is it a roof or is it also a sewer? I forget. But anyway, because for a second I thought that's what that was. And I was like, oh no, that's Romita Jr. There's that wall again. This was a big Spider-Man statue that was kind of cool. And Freddy stood up underneath it. And then Jason goes, what if the rope snaps? There's a cool giant hobgoblin, and they're right up on Spider-Man and animation. I didn't take pictures of some of the animation stuff they had, but they were talking about like every show, and it was very, very thorough. There was a setup with a TV showing Spider-Man and his amazing friends, and the 60s show, and lots of different things, and even making a big deal out of the fact that Spider-Woman somehow got her own cartoon, which I was kind of surprised they even thought to put in there.
Cool.
Here is some original script from Stan Lee with art by Ditko, and they did this nice wall presentation where they're showing you the format of what comic scripts looked like back then. And some more bad guys. They're right up on Steve Ditko. There's Freddy looking at the worst Spider-Man comic books in history, all in a row. It's fantastic. And there's Freddy trying to look like the Green Goblin face.
Nailed it.
And they're right up on Ultimate.
Oh, cool.
And then that was the gift shop. And I bought a sticker book at the gift shop.
Ah, good man.
I bought a really cool Marvel sticker book. I'll show you that at some point. Because it was all like early 60s art.
That's pretty cool.
In the sticker book, it was really cool. But anyway, so that is everything that I wanted to show you guys from the exhibition. And we're only 35 minutes in. I don't feel too bad about that.
Thank you, Grandpa Logan. I did find the house that did it is called Perception. So if you go to experienceperception.com, that is where that's the house that did the title sequence for Far From Home, and they have a whole page of like examples of what they did and like videos showing like the real props. They tried to use as much real props as they could. It's really cool.
Wow, I got a lot of respect for that.
Yeah, I'll send you the link. It's really cool.
That's super cool. Okay, well, let's go ahead and go to questions from the audience. Again, doesn't have to be Spider-Man related, regardless of how festive we're being tonight. Can be about anything under the sun. We'll start with our first super chat that came in, and then DJ, after that, would you go to a couple of Patreon questions, and we'll do at least that much until the break, if not some other pre-written stuff from tonight.
Sure will. I gotcha. All right, first super chat was from Goofster123. We'll knock that one out. $10. Thank you, Goofster.
Thanks a bunch. Yeah. Where's my gong? Yeah, sorry,
He's got it. Cap, if you were asked to put together a Spawn exhibit, would you do it? Would you do it? How would you put it together? Also, surprise Batman doesn't have an exhibit or theme park presence.
Well, that's true. Batman's had a lot of rides.
Yeah, he has. There's a lot of DC stuff at Six Flags Over Georgia here.
Oh, cool.
They have the Superman ride. They have the Batman ride. They have the Riddler ride. They have a new Joker coaster that's in the. They have like a kids DC world. I just took my kids a couple weeks ago,
that's awesome.
and they have a new DC land. There's like a Wonder Woman spin ride, and a little Batman ride for them, and there's like a Joker roller coaster that we waited in for a line for a long time. And then it was like 30 seconds. But
I bet they've got, like shops and merchandise and stuff.
Yeah, I remember because they've always had the DC license. Like when I first moved down to Georgia in like
they probably have some cool stuff there.
When I was 10 in like 2002, that's when the Batman and Superman ride was already there. Like the Superman ride's the one where you lay on your stomach. Like you get in the roller coaster and then it goes and you're like on your stomach the whole time.
No, thank you.
Going through the roller coaster.
That's cool, but no, thank you.
Yeah, I've never ridden it. I'm not a big roller coaster guy. But then they have the Mindbender, which is like the Riddler ride and stuff. Ooh. Yeah, they've had it for a long time. It's pretty old now.
I would do it just to say I went on a Riddler ride with that one.
Yeah, but the DC like Kids World I think is pretty new.
I wonder how similar that is to Universal Studios, to how they handle the Marvel stuff in Florida.
I mean Six Flags is a much smaller theme park.
Sure.
Than Universal, but I think it's similar.
But just in having like a whole area for it, and I wonder what the decor looks like and all of that.
Yeah. It's similar, but it's just not to the same scale as Marvel. Marvel's awesome. Like they have the whole street.
Oh yeah,
that whole comic book street.
Brilliant. And they've got a comic shop there, and yeah,
I love it. I need to go back to there. I haven't been there in a long time.
But yes, I had the same thought Goofster did after I finished walking through, where I was like, we need this for Batman. And I also told Jason, I wish the guys in Metropolis, like the collector there, who's getting up in years, I wish he would get together with a professional house like that and get somebody to fund it, get some money behind him, and put together something like that for his museum. Because for a kind of family operation, what they do there is wonderful, but it needs this kind of treatment.
Yeah,
and
Superman would be the one to
really got the stuff for it. Yeah, it'd
be so cool.
Such an American institution. It's the beginning of superheroes. I think that should be just like his museum, like a standing thing, like in Metropolis. I wanted an outfit like this to go into Metropolis and do exactly this in that museum.
Yeah. So what would you do with a Spawn?
Well, first of all, Goofster might be surprised when I say this. Hell yes, I would do that. Absolutely.
Curator Cap.
As crazy as it would be for me to go back and devote any of my life to Spawn again, I wouldn't have to sit there and read too much of it again if I didn't really want to. You know what I mean? It would be a lot more about the history and the visuals and just how fascinating McFarlane is himself as a character. I absolutely would. I would. The first thing that comes to mind is I would make it a haunted house. As a museum, it would be laid out like a haunted house. You'd walk in and you'd be in an alleyway, and all throughout it, wherever you are, you'll be looking at artifacts, and you'll have big pieces of art on the wall and a lot of original art. If McFarlane would team up with me and do it, right?
Wait, so does it end at you're in hell?
Yes. Absolutely. How freaking cool would that be? Yeah. No, of course. And I'm trying to think of what other sorts of set pieces you have.
Now I want it to be like a water ride. Like it's a small world, but...
Oh, that's a good idea, too.
We're just riding around a little boat through hell.
Yeah. Yeah, it's in water.
Yeah.
And you have like fake
and
lava
it's green.
plumes.
Like you get lights under the water to make it look green.
You have to go out of your way to not make it look too much like that Netflix show Floor is Lava. That's what it would look like.
I would love to be on that show. It looks fun.
But yes, I would. I'd die and go to heaven. I'd die and go to hell in a good way if I could do that. That'd be fantastic.
That'd be amazing. All right, let's go to Patreon.
Hello, Patreon. Okay, so we don't have a big crowd tonight because I think people didn't want to have to listen to me prattle on about an exhibit I went to. So I'm gonna, while you're talking, I'm gonna change the title back to Ask Me Anything now that we're past that part.
All right, guys.
See if anybody else wants to pop in and hang out with us tonight.
Go tell your friends. We're talking about other stuff now.
Talking about whatever you want to at this point.
All right, so the first one.
I just don't understand why people would rather listen to me ramble about whatever than see cool Spider-Man stuff. I don't understand that, but I know that's what's going on. Anyway.
Well, you see, it's the Captain Logan show.
Oh.
So that's all they want. You put anything else in your Captain Logan show besides Captain Logan, they're out.
Gooster says I would also need a Spawn Year section.
Yeah.
Well, that would just be self-indulgent.
This is this one crazy guy who did this insane project for 2 years of his life.
But it'd be cool if you could get movie props from the '97 movie, and if you could get people to make you like a giant violator, and for the statues and things, there's plenty of huge things in Spawn to make.
You can put the script for the new movie that he's written on the napkin and just stick that in the exhibit somewhere.
Well, no, you could put it in several binder reams, probably. No, the joke there is he wrote too much, DJ.
Well, yeah, but I'm just thinking of like the time that he announced it on Facebook, and it was just like a piece of notebook paper, like written in crayon.
Right?
It's like, wow, could you look any less professional there? Whatever your name is, Todd.
Hi, Connor. Good to see you. Was it Seth? No, Todd. I forgot.
Yeah, whichever McFarlane it is.
Yeah, no, we're not talking about doing an Orville display.
That'd be pretty cool.
Well, it would, but it would have to all be props from the show because they haven't made anything for that. Hardly. Which I hate. I hate that we don't have toys for that.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
It's not as toyetic as the live-action Tick show, which I'm more miffed didn't get action figures, but I digress. Boy, this is a self-indulgent show. DJ,
all right,
what
let's see if we can
from Patreon?
Steer the ship here. GB Rogo.
Steer it. Get us back on the hell train. Go ahead.
He says Samuel L. Jackson wanted to cameo as Nick Fury in Breaking Bad.
Preposterous.
What if Marvel and AMC had let him, and for the past 15 years, Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul had been official MCU canon?
So I'm gonna go as far as to say,
request.
Yeah, what a weird request. Like, I know he liked that show, and there's that famous video of him doing the "I'm the one who knocks" speech. Have you ever seen that?
Oh no, I didn't even know about this at all. But that's so weird. I'm a big fan of this, and I'm a big famous character in this. Can I just be in there? What? That's such a weird.
So thing. I want to show, and not just be in it, but as a character I'm already playing in a disconnected franchise in a different universe owned by a different company. It makes no sense. What are you talking about? That would be like
That's the point where he might be a little too famous for his own good, where he thinks he could just ask that.
Well, it makes you surprised that he doesn't just go around in public wearing an eye patch.
Yeah, like he's just become Nick Fury.
Yeah, he just turned into Nick Fury. I mean, we know that he's a big Star Trek fan and that he's not interested. Oh, wait, no, I'm thinking of somebody else. I'm thinking of a different person because he's been in Star Wars. No, I was going to say it'd be like if he got Star Trek, but he had to be Mace Windu in Star Trek. It'd be like that. So I was conflating stories for a minute. I was remembering the Nick Cage thing. Did you remember recently Nick Cage was like, I like Star Trek, I don't like Star Wars. Quit trying to get me to be in Star Wars movies. Remember that?
No, I don't remember that. It's such an amazing Nick Cage thing to say.
No, I'm sure he'd come back and be in Star Wars again if they could somehow find a way for that to work. But if they ever did another like Clone Wars era thing, I'm sure they'll
just do like a Force Ghost movie that's just like No Way Home, but with all the dead Star Wars characters. Yeah,
that's so good. But yeah, I don't know. you'd have fanboys. I mean, this is such a silly thing to speculate about because it would never have happened. But, like, I think the only way you'd have him guesting as Nick Fury in a Breaking Bad episode is if he was, like, at a convention or on the street, again, just in a Nick Fury costume. There's no way he'd be Nick Fury in Breaking Bad. Now, I guess there's not anything necessarily story-wise in either universe precluding the notion that Walter White and everything in the history of that show couldn't have happened in the Marvel universe. I guess it's
so much more of a realistic universe. It would just
it is, but Marvel, the MCU has been kind of purporting to try to be as like grounded and more real worldy as possible, even though it's a world of superheroes. So especially if it like predated, because keep in mind that starts in what, like 07, 08? So like it would predate the Chitauri. So a lot of the crazy things in that universe wouldn't have happened yet.
Yeah.
This is such a stupid conversation, by the way. I can't believe we're talking about this. It's great. But I know you'd have a segment of the fan base that would be so excited that Nick Fury showed up in Breaking Bad that they would have all these theories and they put it all together and, oh, it's canon. I don't think I'd be able to go that far. You know? I mean, if like an official statement was made by both companies, like we've all decided these are officially canon, then okay, they technically are officially canon. But like you've really jumped the shark there.
Yeah, that would be weird. I what's his name? Mike Gilligan or something? I don't know. Mike. Anyway, whatever the creator
Gilligan,
is.
yeah.
He's I'm glad he had too much.
He'd have too much integrity for that.
Yeah, integrity for his material to do anything like
Absolutely. Yep.
Somebody said, have you seen the Saul edited into No Way Home video in place of Matt Murdock? They should just do that instead while they're at it. I have not seen that video. That sounds great.
What is it now? The Saw.
Saul. It's Saul edited into No Way Home instead of Matt Murdock as the lawyer.
Oh, yeah, that's great. That's a good idea. No, I've not seen that, but that's funny.
Does he also catch the brick? That'd be some good editing. Let me see. What else do we have from the patrons?
You get the famous like pizza roof thing in there.
This is kind of real.
PlushEDX says Breaking Bad is owned by Sony, so it could become part of the Morbius verse.
Oh yes, amazing.
Why are we saying? Why have you changed it from Venomverse to Morbius verse now? Just because that's the most recent thing, or that's the most infamous thing?
Morbiverse. Well, it'll be the Craveverse soon. We just change it every time a new one comes out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they don't really feel that much like they're... It's an
anthology universe.
Especially connected anyway, except for like the forced ways. So it's like, well, this is the Cravenverse, and this is the Morbius verse, this is the Venomverse, and they're they're technically associated, I guess.
This is kind of related to what you talked about.
Morbius pretended like he was Venom.
Chewbacca's Lover, thoughts on Ultimate Marvel coming back?
I've talked about this a little bit before, so I'll discuss this just briefly, but it reeks of desperation. It reeks of we're so out of ideas, and more importantly, we're so out of ways to get old fans back that clearly aren't reading anymore. Like, it just tells you how many people, like, I'm not the only one, right? It just goes to show how many of us aren't reading current anymore and left specifically Marvel. Because how many people that are there with them right now reading their books, well, I guess the diehards that never left. I don't want to be contradictory. What I almost said was the folks that are there reading right now, the majority of them probably are newer, but then I don't know that they've gained a lot of new readers in the last decade anyway, and you don't have a lot of young people that are suddenly going to comics. So I guess what they have is, but I'm gonna stand by my point. I think what they've got going on is, well, we lost a lot of readers. We're gonna give the ones that are still here the stuff we think they miss, and then hope we can bring in people like me that left a long time ago by bringing back a thing that we liked at one time. But like the Ultimate Universe was not what it was at the time we lost it, and they had a really cool potential way to get rid of it, and then they didn't use it, but then they got rid of it anyway. So because it looked for a minute there like 616 Galactus was going to come in and destroy the Ultimate Universe, and they didn't end up actually doing it that way. But they got rid of it anyway, and then they made everything really awkward with the few characters they kept, but they had to change their backstories without telling us how exactly they were different in certain cases, particularly with Miles Morales, where like the death of Peter Parker had a lot to do with why he became Spider-Man. That doesn't happen anymore because he started in 616. But we just sort of hand wave it and don't talk about it too much. And maybe at this point they fleshed it out a lot more, but I lost interest before I had any chance of getting to whatever that was. And it was so insanely convoluted, that's why we got rid of it. It's like anytime we've done a Crisis with DC, where then we want to go back to the pre-Crisis stuff and make it all complicated and difficult to keep up with again. But it just, it screams creative bankruptcy, and it doesn't make me want to come back. I mean, like, I'm morbidly curious because it's a crazy thing to do. And if people say that, they streamline it and they've got interesting ideas again, I might be half curious to look at it, but I don't think on the face of it it's a good idea. Plushie DX says Jason Aaron is back. I didn't know he was working in particularly that side of it. I mean, when you say he's back, like, he's been there. I don't think he ever left. I know he's about to do a Batman book, which I'm very interested in.
Yeah, I think it was a more easy, standard explanation for it that I think it was kind of inevitable. Just the same way that, like, the last decade has all been about, like, regurgitating the 90s stuff. Like, that's early 2000s stuff is Ultimate. So like we're getting there in, like, we do this every decade. We like bring back 2 decades ago of stuff.
That's true.
So I feel like, yeah,
so you're saying it's just consistent and we shouldn't be surprised they're doing it.
Yeah, like in the 90s we're bringing back all the 80s Marvel stuff with the TV shows, and then through the 2010s we're bringing back all the 90s stuff. So we're in the 2020s, so it's time to bring back the 2000s.
That's fair. I'll counter that slightly. I'm going to meet you halfway and say bringing back a whole universe that we got rid of and trying to make it align again is a little bit different than going back and doing like mini-series set there, or doing big events that rehash old events, which is a thing we've done a lot, or when we'll not straight up redo Death of Superman again, but bring back a lot of the characters involved, or do a Doomsday story, or whatever it is. But there's a little precedent for this too with 2099. So I mean, you're right.
Yeah, it gets more complicated when you have to like finagle a reason for the universe to come back. But I think it's the same concept of like.
But also, I'm saying if it's a whole line that has multiple books.
Yeah,
that's a little bit different than the way we sometimes do nostalgia grabs, where it'll be just an event for a few minutes. Like if this is bringing back the Ultimate Universe and they're going to have several books in the line, that's a little bigger. That's a little riskier.
Yeah. Totally agree. We just got another super chat from your favorite Hot Soup.
Thanks. Well, hey, I don't have favorites, okay, but I do really enjoy saying Hot Soup.
Yeah, your favorite name to say.
That's true.
I listen to your other videos. I see when you call out the patron names. And it takes you guys like 10 minutes because you can't get on the Austin's always messing you up.
All I had to do was not add him to that and start going back and forth. Like, he's there, he's just sitting there. I kind of felt bad that he had to just listen to me for 5 minutes. I was like, I'll let him read names too. They just botched it all to hell.
All right, Hot Soup wants to know, did the intro of Batman Arkham Knight ever feel mean-spirited to you? Considering Paul Dini didn't return to write that game, and the first thing that happens is they destroy Paulie's diner.
Well, I mean, now that you say it, it never occurred to me that there was a place called Paulie's Diner, and that's what they blew up. And I haven't played that game in a long time. So it's hard for me to speak to that from experience, but yeah, I mean, it's hard not to read into that. I don't know what else to add about it, except that's kind of dirty pool if that was indeed the reason they did that. And if not, why use that name? Like, be a little bit smarter about that, where it's like, oh, we don't need this guy anymore. I'm like, no, you do, Brian. You really do. Because I played that game, and the story is ultra contrived and convoluted, and not as smart, anything like as smart as it thinks it does. It is, and is also way overwritten. Way overwritten. But yeah, interesting.
We have a.
Thanks for that information. Now I'm depressed. Okay, go ahead.
We have an
let's do one more before the break.
Okay, this is an interesting Patreon, very specific to you. Now that you're an expert on this, you've got people asking for your advice.
Oh, great.
Bill Mills, do you think a black and gray tattoo of Spider-Man sitting on the church in the black costume from Space Spider-Man 3 would look cool as a tattoo on the outside of your arm? It's not my first tattoo, and just curious what you think. Since you have gotten into tattoos since the last couple of years, I have attached an example.
Yeah, well, thanks for thinking of me, and thanks for your interest. Here it is. I'll let everybody else be the judge, too. It's cool enough if you're a big fan of that movie and that design. I am not. Like, of course, if it were me specifically and I was going to get a black suit Spider-Man tattoo, even if it was in that pose, it would be comic book black suit. But, me personally, I'm not real into the very realistic looking tattoos.
I was going to ask you, just like a background circle with like an image in it, like a photo almost.
Yeah, it's impressive when I see it that just as a, just artistically, or I should say mechanically, that a tattoo artist is able to pull that off and make it look realistic. Like, I don't know how they do that. I think it's really impressive. It looks almost like an iron-on that you put on your sleeve, but you know they did it by hand. I don't know how the hell they do that. Like, that's really impressive. And my guy is more stylized and doesn't do that kind of work. And I've not worked with someone that does. It's also impressive to have to sit there and go through, the pain of that, because it's several hours. The longest I've sat for a single tattoo collectively has been like 4 or 5 hours. That's double that easy. I would think.
That's several trips, yeah.
So I'll say, if I saw that out in public, I'd go, that's very impressive. I personally wouldn't do it. But as far as like, if you're, tattoos are so subjective, like art in general.
So personal, yeah.
Yeah, that like, There are some things you could show me where I'm like, I don't know why you would want that, or like it's not very professionally done or whatever, but like indisputably that's impressive. But and this isn't just because I don't like Spider-Man 3, but like me personally, I think it's odd. Well, I mean, I don't want to sound mean to the commenter because clearly he really likes that movie, but like, I just thought it was such an odd, lazy-looking choice, however they got to it, to take the Raimi suit and just make it black, and sort of then immortalize that in a tattoo is kind of odd in my brain.
Yeah, and it's not even like really black; it's like gray. It's like it was never like dark enough black for me. Like you used to call it like a chocolate bunny. Because it almost looked kind of brownish gray. Like
that's true.
Even, it's not even like the rich black.
I haven't watched it in action in a long time.
Yeah, I haven't seen that movie in forever.
Like the image of the spider in silver is cool.
Yeah, but the white is so much better. Is the last time you tried to watch that when you and Eric tried to watch the editor's cut and like turned it off halfway through?
I'm trying to think if I have seen it since then. I feel like for some reason I watched a little bit of it once for some reason since then. But yeah, I think that's the last time I've watched all the way through it.
Okay.
And I couldn't tell you the last time I watched it and wasn't talking over it.
Yeah.
So a quick silly story about Spider-Man 3. Over the weekend after we went to the exhibition, my kids were wanting to watch a Spider-Man movie, and we didn't end up doing that, but Mikey watched one the other day, and Mikey and Freddie were just adamant about Spider-Man 3. They love it. I don't know why, but like they love Spider-Man 3. And Jason's like, I mean, not that I was making fun of him or anything, but Jason's like, leave them alone. They're kids. They don't know any better.
And I'm Jason has to stop Cat from making fun of his own kids.
No, and I wasn't going to. But I guess what he meant was, because Jason doesn't like that movie either. I guess what he meant was, to me and you, Dad, it's weird because we don't like the story points, and we think that. I mean, I'm not going to get at all the reasons I don't like Spider-Man 3 again, but the relationship stuff's not great, and I think we throw the character under the bus a little bit and stuff. But those kids aren't going to have that. And then I thought, if I'm real little when that comes out, do I love Spider-Man 3? Is it like a Batman Forever kind of thing?
Probably, I assume. I assume it's like a prequels type thing. It's like if you grew up with it, it's impossible to look at it. I mean, it's everything. We all have those movies that when we were
yeah,
like,
but I guess what I mean is
10.
But they didn't see in the theater. It wasn't brand new. Why did they latch onto that over some other things? Like there's other Spider-Man movies that they didn't grab onto like that.
True.
3 is the one they want to watch over the other Raimi movies, over the MCU movies. Why? What is it that that at 5 and 8 they grabbed onto that?
I don't know. You should ask them.
Well,
interesting to see.
I did, and the only answer I got was Venom.
Oh yeah. Well,
But that's all it is. He's hardly in
Venom
that. I said, but Freddie, what about the scene where Eddie Brock asked Peter Parker to, or asked God to kill Spider-Man, and he just looks at me and he goes, oh, "He's the bad guy."
Hey, he's the most popular Marvel character. So
it's true. So he is.
And I mean, that's the same thing we had with the '90s. We all had the same thing with the '90s TV show. He shows up for 2 episodes of that. He shows up in like episode 5 of season 1, and then he's still our favorite thing of the whole show, and he's barely in it.
Okay, but that's at least two episodes, and he's at the end of the intro in every episode.
Yes, it was like subliminal messaging. They just burned it into our heads.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
Venom was more important in that show. There had to be episodes that we hadn't seen that he was in, because he's in the intro.
No, based on that intro, you'd think he's the Joker or something. Because it's not like he's the villain all over the intro, but then there's not one permeating villain in that intro. He shows up at the end and he ropes up Spider-Man, and then he's like right. Yeah, he's right there. He's the last thing you see before the logo. He practically makes the logo happen.
Yeah.
Cinematographic, you'll get your Venom when you fix this damn door. So good. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and take a break. We'll come back for the second half here in 4 minutes or so of the Captain Logan Show, and we'll spend the last hour just answering your questions, whatever you guys want to ask about. So feel free to throw in more super chats if you're so inclined, and just regular comments, and we'll answer as many things as we can. We'll probably only do 1 or 2 more Patreon things tonight, so we've got plenty of space for you. So, and not a ton of viewers tonight, so you'll probably be able to get your question in. But I never like to promise anything. We'll see you in just a few minutes. All right, folks, welcome back. It's time for the second half of tonight's Captain Logan show, and we are all past the Spider-Man shenanigans, although if you want to talk about more Spider-Man, feel free to ask questions about it, but we can talk about anything under the sun, of course, for the last hour here. We've got some Patreon questions. We can take lots more questions from you guys, and I wanted to mention that tomorrow night, quick plug for this, we're going to have a blind commentary on everybody's favorite Disney Plus Marvel show. It's Secret Invasion. I watched 20 minutes of the pilot and got bored or pilot of the first episode. First part, got bored, didn't want to watch anymore, and we got a lot of requests to do something on it, and then we ended up doing a goal to blind watch it, because that was really the only way I was going to sit through it, probably, was on the channel with you guys' watch party talking over it. This might be one where we do a lot less talking than normal, so that we can, like, get plot points and stuff, but we may actually have to do more talking to keep ourselves awake. I don't know what that's going to be like. I just know what people have told me, and the really dull, uninspired tone that I thought what little I saw of it was setting, and it didn't inspire confidence, all the talk with that show from the showrunner about how they were asked not to even look at the Secret Invasion comics and base it at all on anything in comics. So, like, it has nothing to do with that material in the first place. So, like, clearly not going to be a Civil War situation where they take something and they make it better. They take the name of something and they make something else.
You gotta get that name recognition.
Austin is here. He just, in the comments, he just came back from that new sci-fi movie, The Creator. Yeah. And says in the comments that it was pretty good. So yeah, I wasn't thrilled with that looking at the trailer, but if it's worth seeing, I might consider going.
Yeah, man, I want to go back to the theaters. I haven't been in the theaters I'm broke right now, so I can't go to the theaters. But once I start going to the theaters again, I'll be excited, because I missed a lot of good things that came out this year.
The only time I can go to the theater is on the weekend. I only go when I've got something I gotta do for the channel, because I've got too many kids I'm driving around all the time. Like 5 days a week, I'm driving some kid someplace.
Yeah, it's so expensive to go to the theaters when you have kids. You got to pay a babysitter for several hours, and most likely go out to dinner while you're out there, and it turns into like a $100+ event just to see a movie.
Yeah, and my wife does not care about going to the theater. Like, I've gotten to a place where I don't need to see most things in the movie theater either. Like, I've talked about that, but it's still an experience that I enjoy, especially when the movie's good and when the crowd's good, in a way that my wife just doesn't care. So, like, DJ, she would never spend that kind of money for the both of us to go to a movie. Like, she'd rather do something else.
Yeah. She's probably right. Let's see. We got some...
But yeah, what do folks want to talk about?
Well, we got a fun one here from Daniverse. This is just a regular chat question at the beginning of the show.
Thanks, man. He has been an MVP this evening.
He's so consistent. He's always there. Every show, really, dropping good questions. This is a fun one. What's your preferred? We have a history of talking about swimming on camera together.
That's true. But we don't have a history of actually doing it.
No, not yet.
Which we've talked about. And I gotta say real quick too, not to toot my own horn and be all braggadocious, but I'm in a lot better physical shape than I was back when people first started asking us to do that, and I would be a lot more comfortable with it now.
Yeah,
you'd be able to see my 11 tattoos, but I would be much more comfortable doing it now. I'm getting into the best shape of my life right now.
Awesome, man. That's so cool. I've been trying.
Hey, Daniverse, blame DJ for the long break. Okay, I was here on time. I was.
Sorry, blame my wife for being interesting and distracting. I was talking to her. Sorry. What is your preferred?
I want to find some way to make that a T-shirt, like just, interesting and distracting wives. Like, what does that mean?
Daniverse wants to know what your preferred place of swimming is: a lake, a pond, or a beach.
Well, I'm glad that D was not municipal swimming pool, because it ain't that. I don't want to swim with 500 other people. It's all crowded. Hate that.
Ours is not. We have a swimming pool in our neighborhood, and like no one ever uses it, so it's pretty much like our own personal swimming pool. It's
okay,
really
that's nice. So he said lake,
pond, or beach. Now I got be honest, I don't think I've ever been in a lake or a pond. I think so. I have to go beach by default.
And I've only been to the beach once, but I've been to more lakes and ponds.
Well, there we go. We balance each other out. I think I would go with beach anyway, because if I was going to swim in like a stationary thing, I would just swim in a pool. Like, what's the difference? But
yeah,
the beach at least gives you like some kind of different thing. It's like pushing you, and I don't know. It's a different experience than just swimming in a calm body of water like a pool or a lake.
Yeah, I don't think I have a real like hard and fast opinion on this one, because I didn't grow up swimming in non-man-made bodies of water. So I've only swam in like natural water a handful of times.
Oh, yeah, same. Well, actually, I take that back. I've been in a lake one time. One time, Grace's dad took us on a boat, and we were on vacation one time, and I tried jet skiing, and I was terrible at it.
Oh, wow. I've always been kind of curious about that.
Connor's really good at it. He just went jet skiing with his dad.
Oh, cool. See, I grew up playing wave race, and I always wanted to try jet skis, but I never got to do that, so.
But yeah, I don't think I've ever been in a... I mean, I've been in ponds growing up, like playing with like frogs and turtles and stuff, but not like big enough that you could swim in.
Yeah. Yeah, I've swam in a lake a few times, but that's about it. So I guess that's what I have to say by default. And I've been to the beach only once or twice, and I didn't swim when I went. So I went to the beach with Dan when I visited him in New Hampshire, and I was in I don't know. I was out of shape enough that I didn't feel comfortable swimming and like, you know, taking my shirt off and stuff. So I didn't on that trip. But I'd go with him now.
Yeah. Got to go back. Dan trip 2024.
But now he's in New York. So if I get to go back and see him now, it'd be New York City, which I've always wanted to visit.
That would be awesome. You got to do that. Oh, let's see. What other ones?
Yeah, I have to sweet talk him at some point and see if he'll let me come stay with him. Hey, Dan, we got to swim on camera because DJ and I haven't done it yet. No, you and I need to finally break down and do that. So it's a thing. So it's happened. It'll be a big special 15th anniversary thing next year. We'll figure out some way to get together. We'll swim on camera. Would it be funny if we remotely swam on camera?
Yeah, just with like our phones.
Yeah. We're both on the call together.
We're like 1, 2, 3. We just both jump in.
Swim, and then I just get off the call. Okay, let's move right along. There's no reason that should have been that long.
No, that was supposed to be a joke one. It was the one-off. Let's see.
That was a mistake.
Daniverse again. Where were there any catchphrases you guys considered earlier on in your channel's histories?
Catchphrases?
No,
not really.
This could be a good opportunity to talk about. Did you put any thought into your like opening and closers, or did those just kind of materialize over time? Like your hello everybody.
Yeah.
Hello everyone. That's what it is.
And I can't tell you where exactly that started, but I did it going all the way back, and I'm pretty sure I did it on the podcast that predates Geekvolution by a few months.
Oh, nice.
I always had it. Yeah, you're right. That's a signature thing that I've always done, and there was never a point I wasn't doing that. Now, I didn't have a signature closing thing, and I kind of struggled with endings for a while, where it was like, what exactly do I say at the end to close a show out? And I think even to this day, I probably say thank you to the audience one too many times. Like, I have a hard time getting out of a video, but I've always done the salute too. That goes all the way back too.
Yeah, you guys did that, and Vince had his catchphrase that closed all the GNNs.
He had
reminding you to support your local comic book store.
Well, I gave him that. I asked him to do that.
Oh, that was scripted.
We were sponsored by a comic shop, and I asked him to do that.
Okay, so that's interesting. I never knew that.
No, that was never his idea, and I think he thought it was weird when we first started doing it. But yeah, he was always game for whatever, so we did that. And also, like, we were sponsored by a comic shop. I was trying to be kind of a comic book apologist at that time when there wasn't as much comic book content on YouTube, and I thought it was a good kind of classy thing to do, to be like, hey, there are still comic shops, and if you guys like comics, like, don't buy them online, go to your local comic shop. And I still love local comic shops, but I feel disingenuous doing it now because I don't regularly shop at a comic shop anymore, which is why I no longer say that. I've gone to the dark side and I read a lot of digital now. So I still will sometimes shop at comic shops. And I still buy things at comic shops, but I don't have a pull list. I don't regularly do that. And I have a hard time being like, because support your local comic shop is also support the industry. And I'm not saying don't support the industry. I'm just saying that I'm not doing anything like as much as I used to support the industry. So I don't want to sound like a hypocrite and be like, go do this thing that I'm not bothering doing as much of. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, I had to put more thought into what I say at the beginning and end because I got into YouTube so late and I grew up watching YouTubers. So I found myself in the beginning just copying, just like second nature, just saying things that my favorite YouTubers say. Like, I'm sure I said hello everyone, like for some videos there at the beginning before I settled on what's up collectors, welcome back to Films by Color. But yeah, I had to think.
You got to settle in and find your own.
Reverse engineer a little bit to not
you don't
just
want
copy
it to be,
people.
You don't want it to be too cutesy. You don't want it to be too corny. But like yours is good because it's related to what you do, but it's not off-putting. Mine's probably kind of off-putting. I'm loud and it like blows your eardrums out right at the start. But no, like I like what you do now because it immediately says like who your intended audience is.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking, and I have like a sign off I say now that's specific to collecting. So I don't know. We'll see how long I run with it, but that's what I've been doing for the last year maybe since I started Films by Color. After I switched over in January. So
yeah, wow, it's been that long now. But
it's crazy.
But I'm glad you brought that up because we wouldn't have had a lot to talk about because I never really had a catchphrase. I was sort of married to one that I got rid of maybe too late because it never really applied to what we do. So I won't go through the whole long, boring story again because Daniverse will fall asleep. But when we started or before well before the channel, Geekvolution was already the name of a different thing, and I inherited it from a guy named Ryan Flanagan who tried to start his own business and a geeky social network, and I worked for him doing at first writing articles for a blog and then editing his blog for him. And it started, as I've said before, as My Geek Life. And the catchphrase this is where this is all going, for My Geek Life was, join the Geekvolution. And then later, he decided to change the name of My Geek Life to Geekvolution. And that catchphrase kind of stayed. And I hung on to it for the channel. And it's not a great catchphrase because it's the name of the channel is in it. But the problem with it was always, he thought of it as like a revolution. And I always thought of the Geekvolution idea as more studying the evolution of pop culture. And particularly, comics and superhero fiction. And so join the Geekvolution never really made sense because it sounds like revolution, but I wasn't thinking about it that way anymore. But I still kept it for a long time for no good reason.
Other than study the Geekvolution really didn't have the same ring.
That sounds kind of dumb. Yeah. So no,
Geekvolution.
I've rarely done catchphrases for things. I've got one that I'm going to try to remember to open my new series with, the podcast that I'm doing with Jason, just because I think it's funny. And a quick plug for this. We just did the pilot over the weekend for The Pilot Show, and I'm super stoked for that. We're having so much fun with it. DJ, we just watched the pilot today for House, which we're reviewing over the weekend or at the beginning of the week. I'll let you guys know when exactly that ends up happening because we don't have a time slot for it yet, but a regular time slot. It's just Jason and I, with our schedules, we're having a hard time picking a day because evenings are kind of out. So anyway, with that, I'm opening the show and I'm saying, welcome to The Pilot Show, a show by and for people who don't always finish things.
That's great. I didn't know that you were doing that.
Which I thought of and kind of fell in love with it because I'm sort of making fun of myself for starting a show when I said I was kind of done starting new shows.
That's actually really brilliant.
And because of all the things that we've started that I haven't managed to be able to finish. But the idea is it's pilots. You may never watch the rest of the show. So yeah. I felt good about that.
That's really good. See, it's surprising to me that you don't do more catchphrases like that because you're a writer and you do like put some thought into when you write a post. Like I remember when we used to like, well, you still do write posts, but back when I was writing the posts with you, we used to like put a lot of thought into what we would say. I remember on one of the Marvel Mania posts, I did it without, you just told me to do it one day. And it was the Dark Phoenix one. And I wrote something and you were like, this is great writing. I was like, I felt so good about myself. Like,
Oh, wow. I don't remember that. Or I don't remember what you wrote.
yeah, I don't remember what I wrote either, but I was proud of myself because you specifically called it out. I was like, yeah. But yeah, you put so much thought into those like little clever write-ups that I would think you would do more catchphrase type stuff.
Yeah, I don't know why it doesn't occur to me. I mean, maybe part of it's just because everything I do now is unscripted. But like even back in the day, we didn't do a ton of that. I would, yeah, I would do a little bit more. I kind of, you know, pseudo clever writing in the descriptions for videos. Some like a little bit more than I do now. I still do some of that for like Crypto Freaks and stuff like that. But
yeah. I mean, you did have that whole writer's room where we workshopped the because cheese joke before you unleashed that.
That did not happen. That is not at all what happened with that.
No, most of the catchphrases are like just inside jokes that stuck.
Yeah, no, that's true. And some of them I'll completely forget about. Oh my God, Daniverse. He just keeps making me so nervous with that. He keeps putting things in that make it sound like we're being really boring.
We're getting too self-indulgent. Got to get back. We got a super chat. So
thanks, Matt Jazz fan, for bringing us back here. Is that okay? Here's a question: is that a new viewer, or is that Matt Bat, or another Matt that we know?
Lots of Matts.
Matt Jazz fan, tell us if you've ever left a super chat before, and if you're someone that I know and you just changed your name. Because if not, we owe you the song.
Yeah. Are you Matthew Bass?
He could be Matthew Bass. There's a lot of Matts and Matthews. And people that think I'm boring. Anyway, go ahead and ask his question.
All right.
But we better be damn quick about it, or we're going to lose Daniverse. Go ahead.
You're giving him too much power.
I really am. He's got the power
in the palm of his hand. Matt Jazz fan 499. Is there a movie you disliked on first viewing, but completely changed your opinion on rewatch? For me, it's Guardians Volume 2. That's what he says. Yeah,
the big one that I always go to. This has come up before, but it's a fun thing to talk about because. Yeah, I've had it with lots of things, and particularly things that I saw when I was younger and just didn't like get or appreciate, and then watched again later on. Was like, I don't know what I was talking about. I've had the reverse of that too. Like the reverse of that is the bucket list, which I just thought was brilliant in the theater, and I watched a few years ago, and I was like, oh, this script is not very good.
I call that the Brave Little Toaster effect.
Well, Brave Little Toaster is, I mean, I knew this was creepy, but I didn't know it didn't make any sense, you know. So, you know what? I still want to do a commentary for Brave Little Toaster. We've still never done that.
That's kind of what I want to do with you.
I know.
I don't know how I would get my hands on it.
Yeah, no. I think it's on Disney Plus.
Oh, I'd have to get that again.
No, it's not. The sequels are, but it's not. You'd have to get a copy unless it's streaming someplace else and I didn't know about it. But anyway, the thing I always go to with this is Fight Club. Fight Club is a more interesting answer because that's a movie that right away I did not care for, and then I was doing a rewind on it, and I did a Rewind United back when I did those, and I did a second viewing because I felt like I wasn't fully getting everything in that movie, and the twist hit me sideways because somehow I missed the twist with that. And then when I watched it again, I thought it was wonderful. And it was in the same day or the day after. So it's more interesting when that happens, when something really requires two viewings.
Nice.
But I've also had this with superhero movies. Like I've had it with things where maybe I didn't like dislike the movie, but I didn't love it, and then I loved it. You know what I mean? And I had that with Winter Soldier, which is one of, if not my favorite MCU movies. And on first viewing, it was good, but I wasn't sure if I enjoyed it. You know what I mean? And then something clicked in, and it became the best thing ever.
Yeah. The big one I had this with, I'm sure if I've had this a bunch. That's why I always try not to like completely disregard films if I don't like them the first time, because you never know. You could just be in a bad mood or not the right mood to be in for that, or you never know.
It might be a
expectations
necessity.
Yeah, some movies are like that. But I remember the year Grand Budapest Hotel came out, which is Wes Anderson's big. I think it might be his most popular one. We watched it the year it came out, and just because it was like nominated, and I think we were dating or we were already married at that point. Me and Grace watched it, and neither of us liked it. Did not like it at all. And I started watching more and more Wes Anderson films over the years, starting with Moonrise Kingdom, which I had already seen when I saw that one. So I thought, well, maybe I just don't like this one. But eventually I was watching through all of them, I think last year, and I got back to that one. I was a little nervous because I wasn't crazy about it the first time, but I loved it this time. I don't know what was wrong the first time, but this time it absolutely resonated with me, and it was great. So I'm glad I gave it another chance.
And I know I've had this with a bunch of other stuff, and just things aren't coming to me right now. But
yeah, it's hard to think. I pulled up my letterbox to try to see if I could find something real quick, but
at least you're smart enough to keep up with what you watch. I don't do that, and I really should.
It's tough. I get behind. Yesterday, I've been trying to watch fall movies to prepare for an upcoming video. We watched 3 fall movies in a row yesterday. We did a triple feature yesterday. It was
crazy.
Nuts. We watched Christopher Robin with the kids, and then we watched When Harry Met Sally after that. And then we watched Fantastic Mr. Fox after that. Yeah, all good movies, but crazy.
Yeah, Christopher Robin's better than it had any right to be.
Oh yeah, that's by far.
I was kind of surprised by that.
Very faithful and respectful, unlike all the other going back to the wells that Disney's doing and has been doing for
it's one of the last
10 years now.
Like legitimately good Disney movies in a long time, I think.
Yeah, it's sad. But I mean, I'm glad they were so respectful with that one and thoughtful.
At least of the stuff I've seen. I mean, there's some animated things people like that I haven't bothered with, but
yeah. Let's see. Daniver says 2001 took multiple watches for him to become one of his favorites.
Sure. I'll think a little bit and see if I can come up with another really unusual answer that people aren't expecting, because like things are not coming to me right now except for stuff I've said 100 times. But
yeah, Hot Soup says I had that with Cowboy Bebop. Absolutely hated it the first time and watched it. Second time I thought it was great. Day Ghost said he has it with
I'm having a hard time appreciating that show. I've watched a few episodes and I can't get into it. I'm trying.
Yeah, sometimes those big beloved things, it's tough to get in.
And sometimes it's not. Sometimes you're immediately like, okay, I get why this is beloved, right? Like,
yeah,
you know, there was no kicking and screaming with Akira or.
Oh, Tar is one. Tar is a great example of this. Last year, one of my favorite movies from last year.
Yeah.
First time I saw it, hated it. Was bored to tears. Was on my phone. Like I hated it. 2 stars I gave it. I think I gave it 1.5 or 2 stars on Letterboxd. I watched it again for whatever reason. Something possessed me, and amazing. I love it. Wonderful movie. One of the best movies of last year. I don't know what happened, but I think I just looked at it through a different perspective, through a different lens.
Yeah, well, and one thing you've hit on with your first example was just time and experience and getting older. You know, some movies in particular genres or about particular subjects almost need prerequisites. Almost aren't the right movie to start with in a genre. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not all movies are made to be baby's first whatever, or the introduction to a kind of film. You know, they're for people that like that. Like, I think there is a distinction between a movie that is for people that will like this movie and movies that are for people that like movies like this.
Yeah.
And sometimes, if you haven't seen movies like this, you won't appreciate this movie. You know what I mean?
And that can all be subjective, too. Like,
Absolutely,
you can't always say, like, well, this is the first Wes Anderson movie you should start with, because it's different for every person. It can be hard to even guess sometimes what's going to be the best introduction.
Oh, you know what? I had this with Beetlejuice.
Oh, cool.
I used to not like Beetlejuice. Something clicked into place with me at some point with that.
I've still never seen that. I'd like to see what
Tim I don't know if you'd appreciate it, but
when he was making good movies.
Yeah, it's at least a really creative endeavor. You know what I mean? Like, you've still never seen anything like it, even though it's, or anything exactly like it. You know what I mean? Even though it's a well, like,
I do really like Big Fish. That's the one.
I like Big Fish too, but that's an outlier for Burton. Like, he didn't make anything else like that. It's still, it's got some quirky sensibilities, but it's more whimsical before it's weird. You know?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen Edward Scissorhands?
No.
I finally sat down and watched that over COVID a couple of years ago. I think you would appreciate that movie.
Yeah, I want to see the big three. I want to see Beetlejuice, Edward Scissorhands, and Ed Wood.
Ed Wood I've never watched.
At some point.
That I've never seen.
I've seen his other big ones like Sleepy Hollow and Sweeney Todd. But yeah, I've never seen those big three. I need to see those.
Sweeney Todd I liked okay.
Sweeney Todd was good. That was a good match for him.
Yeah. Well, what else? What else can we talk about?
Well, I got a lot of Dataverse questions, so I can go back to the well.
Folks, give us some questions.
Throw some questions at us, guys.
We'll answer one or two more of whatever you've got. Do we have more Patreon questions?
Yeah, I'll go back to Patreon here.
Okay, cool. But
Carl Maxey.
We'll go ahead and start closing out if nobody's got anything.
This is Carl Maxey. Have you lost faith in Kevin Feige's capabilities in turning things around in the MCU? For me, Kevin earned enough goodwill after 10 years of quality. Phase 4 wasn't great, but not that bad either.
I think the short answer for that is yes, but I'm not rooting against him. You know, I just think, and I said this on a show the other day, I just think he's been doing it for too long, and he's kind of lost the plot a bit, maybe literally and figuratively, right? Like, they've gotten, I mean, Feige is the head of the studio, so whether certain ideas or mandates are his or not, you can put it at his feet because he's in charge. So there are things that he's either allowing to happen or making happen that I think are part of the issue with the direction they're going, with their lackluster projects, and with people losing interest in their movies and in the studio. One of them is we don't look at comics anymore for inspiration, for adaptation, for enough of anything. And besides just the initial creation of a character, maybe, that's a huge mistake. And they had plenty of reverence for some of the best stories from the early days and modern stuff up to at least Phase 3. And it showed in the work, and I think it helped to elevate the work. You're making movies based on comic books. You kind of have to appreciate comic books to some degree. It's not that you can't stray away from them, but it doesn't feel like a coincidence to me that they've gotten less visually stunning and more kind of dull to look at, and the stories have gotten more routine and formulaic as they've gotten less and less interested in source material and, more importantly, just the medium of comic books. So that's one of the reasons that I have not had a lot of faith in him lately. That's kind of the big thing I wanted to bring up with that.
All right, we've got some really cool Patreon questions here that I want to get to.
Well, let me finish this real quick because I thought you might piggyback off of that. But Daniver says
I think you nailed it.
The MCU simply has peaked. It had to eventually happen. I just don't know if I 100% agree with that. Like, and I'm going to sound like a hypocrite when I say that, because on the one hand, I always said we needed to take time off after Endgame, right, and kind of regroup, and we had our big ending, so we needed to kind of process that and appreciate that it ended, and then go on to, for lack of a better word, a new phase. We didn't do that. We just went right into the next thing and just expected that people would keep caring without any without hanging on to the story quality that we had before. Did it have to peak? I mean, everything has its peaks, right? Sometimes you have valleys, and sometimes you peak again, right?
Yeah.
There's no reason that can't happen. There's no reason that can't happen. But it doesn't feel unsalvageable, but it feels damn hard. to me, to bring the consumer confidence back to the level it was, because they thought they were untouchable, and the general audience, the public, thought they were untouchable, because it was like Pixar. They didn't expect them to make any bad or mediocre movies. And then when there were several things in a row where people went, I don't care about this character, and I don't care about this character, and yay, Guardians, oh, but it's the last one, and yay, Spider-Man, but you know, we don't have another one of those, you know, like on the horizon. And then some of the rest of us going, I don't think that was real great either. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think even in the universe where they pull it off perfectly and Phase 4 is amazing, you're still going to lose a significant amount of people just because it's the end of an era, because it's new characters, obviously. But it could have been, you know, obviously it didn't have to be as bad as it was. I think you just need some new blood in there. I think Kevin Feige might just be getting too comfortable, or he got too comfortable and he wasn't innovating anymore. He was just kind of overseeing. Like, there's a story where he just kind of like threw out a note for Spider-Man No Way Home, and then that's apparently all he did. It was just his idea to do it as a movie, and then I don't know how much he was actually involved in.
Well, not just that, but it was supposed to be something else, and then he just changed it on a whim.
Yeah,
because that was supposed to be the Kraven movie.
Yeah, it seems like he's
not
just
the Kraven movie, but a movie with Kraven as the villain, I think. Am I remembering that right?
Not that he's over it. I'm not sure, but not that he's over it, but just like you got to have a young, hungry guy in there who's I don't know, who's fresh eyes.
Yeah, who's not used to all of the success and not having to necessarily try. Because I think up to a point, even when things were still going well, they tried to have, as much as they could, the attitude of, this could be the one that tanks us. I don't think they have that anymore. Maybe they're starting to have to turn back around and have that. But I'm also hearing a lot of denial from the people on top at Marvel and at Disney at large, and I don't know how much of that is PR and how much of it is actually true, honest to God denial. But when Feige would say things like, "Well, we need to get like named directors in," and that's the problem. It's like, well, either for some reason you think that saying that helps your PR, or more likely you really believe that and you don't have any sight of what the actual problems are.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting seeing what next.
Like, get people in to just make movies and leave them alone, and don't have just workmen direct. And if that's what he meant, sure, fine. But wouldn't it have been much nicer to hear him come in and say, "Here's an idea. Let's not be a sausage factory anymore. You know, let's not be an assembly line anymore. Are we making art, or are we making cars?"
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Once they got settled into a
cars
formula.
Can also be art.
They don't need to go back to formula. They need to break formula.
Yeah. I mean, there's bad ways to do that, too.
Yeah.
You know? Plus, UDX, better directors will make the MCU films look nicer. But riddle me this. How much creative control do they get? When he says we need named, the problem in my mind, what worries me is the, and I don't mean to overanalyze, but is the phrase name directors. Not we need, because I'm pretty sure that's what he said. Not that we need more talented directors or we need better leaders. No, name directors. So is the point people whose name will sell our films? Or that name directors are the ticket to giving us better products? Because I think it's more likely to be the former.
Yeah. Or just hopefully that's just unfortunate wording, but yeah, that's a concern. Anyway, Elliot Slater. Do you believe Image Comics was a good or bad thing in the early 90s?
Image Comics, like a bunch of, and maybe this came up in the GNN that Austin and I did that I'm about to mention, but it's one of the 1,000 things we might have and could have talked about in our video about wonderful things that ruined everything.
Oh yeah.
Image put out a lot of like very odd, counterintuitive, nonsensical stories, and it, you know, some really cool looking stuff and then some things that were baffling because the art wasn't great, but people thought it was, and it was all about the art. The early 90s is a time where it's backwards from what it turned into when I was reading comics real hard. New stuff in the mid, early to mid 2010s, where it was all about art and not very much about the writing at all. And neither of them, with most of Image, was particularly good. But the writing, especially for a lot of things, was pretty bad. Not everything. Darkness was pretty well written for the time anyway. Witchblade, but like Spawn, I don't know about Savage Dragon. I didn't read very much of that. But like the what's that team book that Liefeld did that everybody makes fun of that is just completely nonsensical, particularly early on. Youngbloods, like Youngbloods is like that. McFarlane and Larson and all those guys, Jim Lee, they had the right idea in giving creators the rights to their own books and letting people just be creative and put stuff out through their house and retain rights to everything. It was revolutionary, and it was a really good idea, and it has done wonderful things for comics later, especially. So the best creator-owned stuff in the last 20 years and particularly the last 10, comes from Image. But for the actual comic industry, it was a mixed bag. It was a good thing and a bad thing. It took a lot of the best talent from the big two and made them really nervous, and that might have been part of why the big two got really obsessed with gimmicky things that ultimately tanked the industry. It's just a question, right? Like, you have the big books that float everything that were selling, like, at least, with first issues 1 million copies or 500,000 copies or whatever, like Death of Superman and stuff like that. But those things, of course, are few and far between. And, individual books, like, selling more copies than they do these days. But still, I wonder if some of that talent hadn't left, if they would have as quickly leaned on variant covers and like the splashy stuff that created the bubble that burst and all of that. It's hard to know if that happens without Image. So I don't know. It's definitely a mixed bag.
All right, refusing to answer the question.
Well, it's just, that is a case where it's both. I can't say one or the other. I can't say like Image was great for overall great for the industry. Like, it caused some problems, but I also can't say it was bad for the industry either. Like,
yeah, well, I guess he says, was it a good or bad thing in the early 90s? So I guess you would agree it was good in the 90s. It just caused
in the early 90s, but then did that, and I don't know the answer to this, because I hadn't really thought about this part of it before. Do you get the crash without Image's creation? I just don't know.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Because they weren't engaging in as much of the speculation crap. But then their books were selling so hot that people were buying up too many of them because of the speculation crap. Plus, some of the gimmicks were because Action Comics #1 sold for a lot. Yes, no, that's true too. That's why I'm saying, like, I hesitated, because that was the first time I've ever had that thought. Is like, did talent leaving have anything to do with some of the wild speculation stuff? And the companies leaning on, like, multiple covers and all of that. The stuff that McFarlane swore he wouldn't engage in, and then later on absolutely did. Do you know how many covers of Spawn 300 there were? Yeah, how many covers of Spawn 200 there were? 100 was very conservative. I think it only had like 8, and I think 200 had like 20 or something.
Either die a hero or live long enough to become one of the big two.
That's it. Except they still do it better than the big two do. On almost every level.
All right. Well, you ready for a tough one?
No. But I guess I'll walk into a test I haven't studied for. Go ahead.
Saqib Tariq, if you could consume media from only one franchise for the rest of your life.
Oh, this one's easy. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. What franchise would it be and why?
That is real easy for me, and it's not even going to be an interesting answer. It's Star Trek, hands down. Easy. For a couple of reasons. And obviously, I'm selective. It's not like, well, I can consume media from this one franchise, so now I'm stuck watching New Trek just so I have more things to watch. Like, no, I'm not. There's 700 episodes between the original 5 series before you get to New Trek. I'm I wouldn't have to. And it's probably easier for me because I'm more of a TV guy than you are, DJ.
Yeah, I have no idea.
So I have a universe of all these things to go to. That's part of why, because it's the only thing I like that has as much as there is of it, or the only thing I love that I know a ton about. And I've seen a lot of those episodes a bazillion times, and I don't get tired enough of them to quit watching it. So and I don't watch a ridiculous amount of TV anymore anyway. So just being maybe overly realistic with the question, I'm probably not watching more than one episode of television a day most of the time. Well, there's 700 episodes of Star Trek before you get to New Trek. That's plenty for me. By the time I wind back around to TOS, it will have been long enough since I watched those episodes. If you're only watching one episode a day, it takes you, what, 2.5 years to get all the way through it? So yeah, that's a reasonable amount of entertainment. And the other thing is, it's the only thing my wife likes to watch as much as she likes watching that. So, it's the only franchise she's that into. So it gives her and I something to do if there's not any other franchises that we can engage in.
Yeah, that is an impossible question for me because I don't like
You're not a franchise
franchises.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I am.
So I could maybe do a single director or maybe a single studio or something, but yeah, I'd have to go to TV. Franchise, the most I could get is MCU with 20 movies, but
yeah,
there's not that much.
And
That's
if I didn't have Star
question.
Trek, it's a harder question. Well, unless franchise means every iteration of a thing, right? With reboots and everything, because then you might expect that I would be having a hard time between Star Trek and Batman. But I think at the end of the day, I would sacrifice Batman for Star Trek.
Yeah, and I would think that
especially if I could still read.
The 90s movies would be a franchise, and the Nolan movies would be a franchise.
Yeah. But if he's not, and again, we're overthinking it, but if he's not thinking about it like that, and he just means property as opposed to franchise, then yes, there's more Batman than there is Star Trek, technically, but a lot of the best stuff is on the page. So as long as I can still read, I'm in good shape there. I wouldn't want to watch Batman but read Star Trek. Screw that.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
That's a great question, though.
Well,
not hard for me, but I think you broke DJ. I don't think he's ever gonna.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I might have to go to TV and go to The Office or something, or I don't know. I'm gonna go. We got time for one more?
We do, absolutely.
We got one more Patreon. This is gonna be a real noodler.
Are we going to have knocked out Patreon for the month of September?
Yeah, it's the last one.
Sweet.
Jonathan Campbell, the world is in a 24-hour time loop.
It's a vampire. I'm sorry.
And only you two remember the previous days of the loop. How long does it take you to find out?
So this is a thing that is... Oh, sorry. Was there more to the question?
Yeah, he says, what do you do with the time and what's the plan for escape?
Well, it's a conceit. So the plan for escape depends on what the universe... What kind of evidence the universe presents us for getting out of it. There's no good answer to that. It just depends on who's writing the nonsense. You know what I mean? Because sometimes it's a lesson you have to learn, with Groundhog Day. Sometimes it's a particular mistake that you made first time around that you have to find some way to get a message to yourself to change in another iteration, like cause and effect with Star Trek The Next Generation. There's a lot of different ways that causality loops happen, and it's a complete conceit. So
we'd have to try all of them.
You just have to try everything.
You and I would just have to go through and, okay, let's hit Groundhog's Day. Let's hit, did you ever see Palm Springs?
No.
One of the better movies that came out of 2020. Not a lot of movies.
Is that a causality loop?
Oh yeah. It is directed by Max Barbacow, and it was an interesting one because he finds he's able to bring someone else into the causality loop with him, and then it's like a romantic comedy, and yeah, really really thoughtful.
That's
really
become a thing we've done more often with it. For a long time, causality loop stories, it's weird how many of these there are, by the way. And also, I just saw the Stargate SG-1 one last week, and that's considered one of, if not the best episodes of that show. A lot of Stargate fans think the causality loop episode is the best episode of SG-1. And it's really good, actually. And it's also very, very funny. But anyway, or as I go with that, most of the time those stories used to always be, there's a, like Groundhog Day, there's a one single person that keeps reliving the same day over and over again, and will sometimes convince other supporting characters of that, but then before they have a chance to figure out how to get out, the day starts over again, and you have to reconvince everyone all over again. And you have to figure out some way, again, to like get a message to yourself or solve the problem within that singular day, knowing everything that's going to happen. Having another person there, I would feel more confident in finding some way out. And also, you'd go less crazy because because every time it started over, DJ would remember all the crazy crap we just had to go through the day before, and I wouldn't have to re-explain everything to at least one person. I wouldn't have to do that, and we could also divide and conquer. We could we could both run off and look for clues and try to find out stuff. And then the nice thing is, if we both started the causality loop in the same place every day, we could reconvene without trying. Like, we wouldn't have to get back to a post somewhere. We would just always be back together. What would suck is if we both knew about the causality loop, but we were like 400 miles away.
Yeah.
Then it would be useless.
That's true.
I mean, you know, maybe you could call each other. Yeah, that would not make for a good movie.
I think that would be fun. That would be fun to do it with somebody else. Like, it would be like the perfect buddy cop, not like buddy movie. Like, it would just be fun to be able to just like do all this illegal stuff when there's no ramifications. We could just do whatever we want, and it would be it'd be fun to be with like my wife in that situation, just like a date night where you just have free roam of the city.
No, the scenario is it's you and me, DJ.
Now, I'd have fun with you too, for sure.
Yeah, but after a while we'd get sick of each other. I don't think I'm the easiest person to live with. And what would suck about it is if you were stuck in the causality loop forever, there would still be the problem of never being able to have any regular ambitions, not being able to live a normal life. Like, you know, you couldn't have your marriage would be over, even though your wife wouldn't know it. You know, you could maybe go see her, you know, during the day each time, but you couldn't progress anything in your relationship. So, like, that whole thing would suck. It would be easier if it was two people that didn't have any, and I mean, it would still suck that you'd never really be able to get your life going. But if you had two people that were in the situation that didn't have any attachments, didn't have any responsibilities, you could use it as an excuse to see the world, and then it wouldn't feel like or at least see some of the world, because I guess you'd start back at the place you were every time, but you could travel a little bit. You could go to some different places. You'd be stuck within a certain distance, now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, but I guess what I mean is, if you went far enough every time, it wouldn't feel as much like the day kept repeating itself, because you could go explore different places. It would be like being in an open world video game where you went back to the start menu every day.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be as much fun if you were by yourself.
Yeah, I recommend checking out Palm Springs. It was a good movie. And I did not see very many movies from 2020, but I like that one. I should probably watch it again because I don't remember much about it. I know J.K. Simmons is in it.
I may take a look at that. I like the sci-fi Tom Cruise causality loop movie, and I think that's one of those where there's a woman that he falls in love with who he brings into the loop with him. I think that happens in that too.
Well, Emily Blunt, I think, is the one who brings him into it.
That's what it is. I've seen that one time, and it was in the theater a million years ago. So
I saw it one time too, and I remember really liking it, but I never thought to go back to it. That's one where we have to like win a war to stop the time loop. So I don't know how good we'd be at that.
Oh.
Hopefully it's not that.
I don't want that. I want to just
win an alien war.
Learn how to give a crap about people, and then you're good. Like, Build a snowman, and then you can get out, you know?
Yeah. That was a fun one, though. I remember that.
Yeah, it's a good movie. Cinematographic, Edge of Tomorrow, thank you. I never remember the name of that movie. But I like Happy Death Day, okay? It's kind of weird, the track record we've had with causality loop movies. There's actually a decent number of good ones.
Yeah, I never saw Happy Death Day, but you liked that one quite a bit.
I did. I didn't bother with the sequel because it looked like more of the same, but people said good things about it. And it was different writers, so I wasn't sure about it. But I might look at that finally. Alex Beer and Cap would be great at winning a war. He's ultra jacked now. No, I'm not, but I'm in better shape than I've been in a long time.
Oh, you should have watched Edge of Tomorrow instead, Austin.
Transformers 4. All right, folks. Well, we're right at 2 hours, so I guess that's going to do it for us tonight. If you're so inclined, enter at your own risk. Pop in tomorrow night at 10 Central, or we might not be right on time. I have a writers meeting tomorrow night, so apologies if we're 10:15, 10:30 getting started, but around 10 Central, we're going to try to start tomorrow night. The Secret Invasion blind commentary, and I've done the math, and it is just over, get this, 3.5 hours long. They should have just made a movie.
What?
It is 3 hours, and I think it's 8. But they're short.
Oh, yeah. I heard they just, like, the episodes start petering off towards the end and they get shorter and shorter.
That's what I heard, too. Yeah, the last episode is probably 12 minutes long. But, yeah,
it's just an epilogue.
It is 3 hours and 45 minutes long when you take out the recaps and the credits at the end that tell you all the different languages that it was done in.
Yeah. That's the whole last episode.
But we're gonna watch it. We're not gonna prepare for it. We have not seen it. I haven't seen past the first 20 minutes, and I don't know how much actual discussion there's gonna be because I'm gonna try to kind of pay attention, but I'm afraid I'm gonna fall asleep. So
I hope it's like enrages you enough that you like. It's a good commentary because you're like yelling at the screen the whole time. Like what?
I think that's the best you can hope for entertainment value from us is screaming. Unless it gets really good somewhere, but that's not what I've heard from people.
I hope they go even, because I think what I've heard is they just completely makes his character like make no sense and even worse, like more of the cat scratch.
That's what I heard.
Problem. So hopefully you just get so mad because you like Winter Soldier so much that it's entertaining.
He's just not even that character to me anymore. Plus, GDX, they actually got him to do Secret Invasion. Yeah, we did a super chat goal a few weeks ago for it. And we met that goal, so I promised we'd do Secret Invasion. And I will probably do another Super Chat goal not too long from now, now that we're going to do this. I wanted to wait until we'd fulfilled this one, but people have also requested She-Hulk, and I'm not bothered watching that. So we'll probably, because Austin said he would watch that with me. Yeah, I know. So I will probably do a Super Chat goal next week or the week after for She-Hulk. And I don't know if these go well, we'll keep doing it with stuff. We could do it with some of the Star Wars shows and things like that if anybody cares. Stuff I'm just not going to bother actually watching like a normal person.
He has to be forced.
Yeah, exactly. Well, guys, I'm shameless. Thanks for watching, everybody. We appreciate you. See you tomorrow night if you decide to pop in for that. I'll let you know on the date and time soon for the next episode of the pilot show that Jason and I are going to do. We're going to be watching the first episode of House. For that, I watched that today and enjoyed it. It'll be fun to talk about. So, in the meantime, I was Captain Logan, and this was DJ Martinez.
Reminding you to support your local comic book store.
Your Lurkle?
Import your Lurkle.
Steve Lurkle?
I was gonna I thought about changing it halfway through to like video store because I'm like a movie guy, but I was like, there's no video stores anymore.
Well, that would be funny though. Like we should start saying that and not even explaining it. Just
yeah, I should.
Support your local video store. You'll have the one guy that gets on his phone and is like, wait a minute, there's not one of these in 1,000 miles.
There's a really cool chain of video stores in Dallas. When I went there, it's like movie.
Still.
What's it called? Movie theater, movie trade, something.
There's Trade Post, but that's not a rental store. I mean, they might rent videos, but that's a lot more like a Vintage Stock. I mean, Vintage Stock rents videos too, but it's not technically a video rental store.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's not the same thing. We don't have the classic video rental stores anymore.
Well, we have a classic video rental store that's still there in Atlanta called the Videodrome, which is really cool. And I didn't know about when you came, or I would have taken you to it.
Yeah.
My friend just took me there for the first time. I used to work right by it. My office is right next to it. I never knew it was there.
Oh, that sucks.
It's a bummer because now I don't go to the city enough. I'm not going to rent a movie and have to drive all the way back there and return it. But it would have been nice just picking one up after work when I was there.
Well, a couple of times I've been to see you, we haven't gone into Atlanta proper at all. So maybe next time I'm there, we could actually do that.
Yeah, for sure. We should. I'm a little more into like, going out and, getting a drink and stuff now. So I could take you to some places. So it'll be fun.
Yeah, I mean, I found a barcade while I was there. While we were there. I took you to a place
that I'd never been to.
I was like, we should go to this barcade, DJ.
You're like, oh yeah, because that was right after my kids were born, so I was doing nothing. I was staying home all the time, and and then you're like, let's go see stuff. I'm like, I don't know anything.
No, that was last year.
I mean, yeah, but I had my second kid in 2020, so like we weren't going anywhere. We were just kind of staying home a lot. So.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I'm just saying it wasn't that long ago. It was like November of last year. It hasn't even been a year.
Yeah. I mean, my daughter was only 1.
Oh, that's true.
But yeah. Now I'll take you to the city next time. We can do some fun stuff.
Cool. Well, and I gotta get you here at some point.
Absolutely.
I'll pretend like Kansas City is cool. No, there's fun things here.
Well, the Spider-Man exhibit's gone, so there's one.
He's like, well, so there's nothing left. Nothing to do. Anyway, appreciate you guys. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.